Yeah, I know. We were just like, do you want shit in your river? I was like, yes, always, yes. And now we've got it. I'm not so sure it was such a great move. No,
Yeah,
I'd
yeah.
go no if they brought it up again. I won't lie. Hello, everyone, and watching from hopefully all over the world, and welcome to a very special relationship. The show that asks, do you want fries with that or just chips? I'm Matt Johnston. I'm host of the Interesting Times. That looks all the UK political stuff. And the other face you're seeing on the screen belongs to Andrea Bridges-Smith, who hosts the Phoenix News Network. We look, as I say, look at everything involved in politics in the UK and US. And well, I have to say, obviously, the big news at the moment, I'm going to take over the mic for a little bit, Andrea, because it is
Please.
coming from the UK. We
It
have
is your
just announced,
Christmas.
yeah, even though with an American twist on it, because we've announced a general election, but it's for the 4th of July.
Yes, and that is a very interesting day to have an election. It's We have found that it's a great day to free yourself from being ruled by, whatever tyrannical people happen to be in charge. No need to name names, but you're going to have some reasons to get out the hot dogs and fireworks too.
Yes,
So maybe this is a chance for us to reclaim that holiday together in the spirit of
I like that.
unity and such. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I like the sound of that. Our very own Independence Day as we throw out these various individuals, including, yes, yeah, in fact, you're quite right, because obviously this particular individual, Rishi Sunak, that we're talking about, came out and made the announcement unelected.
Exactly.
So,
And he had to
yeah.
talk to the king before he did it. So
Yes,
there you
that
go.
is true. That is absolutely true. So the king knew before the rest of us. By the way, as I say, we've just watched the clip, but there's a bit where Rishi Sunak is struggling to be heard because they're playing music. And it's been done by a chap called Steve Bray. And Steve Bray, since Brexit, so since 2016, and he's seen it all, essentially, he's been the ultimate pain in the ass for the Conservatives. All the way down the line. He's there with he kind of wears this, like just regular coats and stuff, but he wears a blue top hat
Hmm.
and he has a megaphone shouting Tories, 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 out, 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 and various things like that. And he plays music. And one of the musical bits that he plays, which apparently he was doing there, and I didn't catch it with my hearing aids, but which was D-Ream, Things Can Only Get Better. Do you remember that song?
Yeah. I was wondering what it was. That's fantastic. Good day for the top hat guy. He's got to be having a good one. He finally got his wish.
Yes, I have no doubt he will be getting properly tanked up tonight, as we like to say over here. Um, but
Yes.
it's an extra reason to do it because the D-Ream song, Things Can Only Get Better, was what brought Tony Blair into power. That was their song, New Labour. They
Oh,
played that
okay.
song over and over. So obviously there's that connection there. He knows his history. He knows his political history, certainly.
I love it. Watching this announcement, which we got to do together, which was a lot of fun. First of all, our shout outs to the podium guy. The podium guy is very stressed. We hope he can relax now. He had a tough job. Um, what struck me was, Rishi Sunak basically saying, "Look, we have a plan, okay? We have gotten the economy to be back to normal for about 14 seconds. Let's just not even think about which party's prime minister tanked that economy during their incredibly short tenure. No need to bring that up. The important thing is that we have fixed the thing that we may or may not have done. That's
Yeah.
not for me to say. But now that things have been better for 14 whole seconds, uh, I think we're good to have an election and I'm sure I can get reelected. And it's like, there's not a snowball's chance, sir.
No chance, no chance. And the thing is, as well, one of his other phrases was, "We're all in this together," blah blah blah. I've helped you. They found out that between him and his wife, they made between them £300,000. Was it a day last year or something like that? Basically, no, it wasn't that much. It's not 100 grand. I worked it out. They would become, no, it was per day. They would become millionaires twice over every single week if they started with nothing.
Wow.
And it's like now turning around going, we're all in this together. I mean, I'm struggling. Sometimes I have to
Sure.
buy brand stuff, which he never does.
Sometimes my butler has to use a coupon. Like, yes, very, very tough times for you, sir, I'm sure.
But it's exciting. And I notice as well that you mentioned that obviously because in America, the elections go on for about 3 or 4 centuries.
Yes, yes, we are still having the first one. No, I truly, I am baffled by this idea that today it is May 22nd, and you are going to have an election on July 4th. Our election has been going on for the past year and a half, and we have 6 more months to go. We're so tired, and I'm just insanely jealous of you right now that the campaign season is going to be so short, and then you'll be through it, and then you will have the answers and not be kept in a perpetual state of suspense and tortured agony. So hats off to you for circumnavigating that.
Thank you. I mean, it's called, to be fair, normally you get a bit more notice than this. But
Yeah.
clearly, Rishi Sunak has called a snap general election because he wants to catch Labour on the back foot. And I'll be honest, it's almost caught me on the back foot. I know it's caught a certain amount of Tory MPs on the back foot. And again, this is something that we spoke about. The Tory MPs, some of them weren't very happy. It's still worth pointing out that Labour are some 20 points ahead in the polls because of the bizarre way that our electoral system works. The Tories could be heading for some sort of wipeout. I don't think they will. I think they'll end up with 100, 150 odd seats, but that's close to a wipeout for the Tories.
Yeah.
And so a lot of them are going to lose their jobs. And they're all like, why are we calling an election now? Has he not seen the polling? Does he not trust it? Yeah, it's all rather strange. And I remember seeing on Twitter somebody complain about the fact that, they're like a door knocker. They say they do this at the top. They got no idea for the rest of us. We got to sort things out. We've got work to get around. If we've got kids, we need to sort of get the babysitters in, things like that. It's all right going, oh, well, I'm in 6 weeks. All right, good luck, everyone. Bye.
Yeah.
But there's a bit more to it than that. But again, this comes down to the fact that Rishi Sunak has no idea how most other people live their lives.
That's kind of on brand with the way that he left the podium. Normally at the end, you say like, thank you, and God save the king, or whatever,
God save the king.
There's some sort of like sign off there. And he just stopped talking, turned around, and took his soggy ass back inside with no sign off whatsoever.
Will deliver a secure future for you, your family, and our United Kingdom.
So this sort of abrupt, let's do this.
Yes.
It's very very on brand for him. Is that something that he does normally? I believe in the opening credits of your show, there is a thing of him like turning away from a podium and walking away.
And obviously somebody behind the cameras going, and he's gone, and eventually just walks off. And first time I saw it on Twitter, everybody was just going, he's just so weird. It looked like a robot. It genuinely looked like a robot, if not for the fact that he wasn't so bad at everything. If he was some sort of spooky genius, you're like, that guy's a robot. Because how can he be so, that level of human intelligence? You don't get that level of human intelligence. In a way, you don't get the level of human intelligence that he's got, but from the opposite end of the spectrum. Yeah, that's another reason actually thinking about it for a snap general election, because he's not a meter and greeter. He really isn't. Boris Johnson, much as I hated the guy, was a person to go out and sort of shake hands. Hey, how you doing? That sort of thing. Get a laugh from people. Yeah. Sunak isn't.
The tired, unwashed, huddled masses might accidentally step on one of his $1,000 shoes, and you can't have that. That's not good.
No, absolutely not. I mean, yeah. So I feel like we should be talking about, obviously there are other things here that have been happening, but that's really kind of caught us off guard. I guess fair enough.
Yeah, big news today.
Yeah. It'll be interesting as well to see how this is framed in the States when I don't know, but because obviously July the 4th has been happening for the last century. Is it still, I mean, that's a big thing, but is it a big thing in the news?
Yeah, people do pay pretty close attention to July 4th. There's usually, lots of, sometimes there's parades, fireworks displays, all that kind of stuff. So it really, is a good chance to wave the flag and be very patriotic. So over here, I think people will be very amused by the fact that you're having it on our Independence Day, given that the independencing was from, well, say you, for example.
This
So
guy and his forefathers, yes.
exactly. That was a Matt Johnston production all the way, just a bit later on in the game. So yeah, I think people will find that amusing. I think what's interesting. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. While I've been out walking the dog and thinking about politics, which is what I do every morning. I've been thinking, if you guys get a Labor government, which it's looking pretty much like you will.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rishi, but it seems like that's what's going to happen. And we ended up with Trump again. That would be very strange, wouldn't it?
That
Because
would.
it's like you guys, it seems like you're kind of coming out of a nightmarish, several years. You have the opportunity to change a lot of policies and hopefully, get back on firmer footing and do things better. Whereas, if we were to end up with Trump again, it would be kind of the exact opposite. So it would be really weird to see what the relationship between our two countries would look like under those circumstances. So have you thought about that at all?
Well, funny enough, I was going to do this whole thing about what if a Labour government came into power, and obviously within a couple of months we're going to find out.
Yeah.
But there's, for instance, Emily Thornberry. I'm trying to imagine. I can't imagine what she's doing now. She's not Foreign Secretary. Emily Thornberry is a Labour MP. She's a member of the cabinet, and she's called Trump a rapist because he's a rapist.
Word.
Yeah, and I think there's been another sort of Labour cabinet member as well that's been quite vocal about their hatred of Trump, as it were. I mean, two things occur to me with that is I think Trump is, it seems to me, and obviously you know better than me, that if he faces that sort of criticism, he tends to sort of, he goes either two ways. Either he basically calls these people ugly and sort of they're absolute sort of morons, that sort of thing, or he just says, oh, they all love me. It's one sense of delusion or the other. But it will be interesting because the other thing for Keir Starmer to consider is the fact that unlike the Tories, who do have some fairly vocal people when it comes to things like Gaza, for instance, and Rafa, what we've spoken about before, they've got more MPs that are prepared to put their jobs on the line, if you like, and be quite vocal about this thing. This will be a government a lot more driven by morality than, I mean, that's a low bar to clear. I appreciate that.
Yes.
But it will be, you won't get the sort of nodding dog of, if there's an issue, they will come out and say something.
Right.
And of course, as we've already mentioned about Sadiq Khan, who got elected, yes, this month. Things travel so quickly, don't they?
It's happening very fast, yes.
He got re-elected as London mayor this month. Him and Trump, mad Twitter spats, so.
Right.
Yeah, although it's not really going to make a lot of difference. If Trump comes to the UK like he did the last time and visits I was going to say the Queen, he's not going to visit the Queen, the King, that sort of thing. Everybody's going to be on their best behavior, and him and Khan just won't meet up.
Yeah, it's probably better that they don't.
Yeah.
More for Khan's sake than Donald's. Wow, what a wild day.
Yeah. I am still a little bit buzzing. I'm rather intrigued as well as to, obviously I'm thinking ahead a lot, but in 6 weeks' time, I'm kind of wondering what I'm going to be doing with my channel. as well. So I'm going to put it out there and ask people what they like. It may be that I just carry on sort of following Labour in the same way that I followed the Tories, but there won't be anywhere near the comedy, if you like, the horrifying comedy horror that we
Right.
got from the Tories. So yeah.
If it's any comfort, I imagine that all of these Tory people who are about to lose their jobs are going to become television commentators where they can say absolutely batshit insane, crazy stuff. And so I think you'll have that to work with at least.
Funny you should mention that, but GB News, are you aware of GB News? Just
Yes.
imagine Fox News, where people tend to be uglier and lighter skinned. Because they're all kind of tanned, aren't they? They're all very tanned in sort of, you know, in Fox News and stuff, and white teeth. They've not got white teeth. And funny enough, there's quite a few Conservative MPs that actually do currently present on GB News, the mad ones. Yeah.
Yes.
So there'll be a few more. They'll all be fighting over various sort of roles, you know, from 6 till 7, so-and-so, and 7 till 7, you know, that sort of thing. It'll be going throughout 24-hour news cycle while they try and find people. But they're also in trouble with Ofcom, who are the regulatory body, if you like, for looking at all the broadcasting and the newspapers and things like that, about the fact that, funny enough, Rishi Sunak had one of these forum type things where people were throwing him softball questions. And it was the one that you could tell he was prepared for and what have you. But somebody broke cover on the way out. This chap was interviewing people saying, how do you think you did? And some people were saying, all right, yeah, not too bad. That's the thing. And the bloke was, well, I'm not sure, but where do I put my expenses claim in? Now, obviously, the audience aren't supposed to be being paid. If they turn up, then they turn up for that. You know what I mean? This guy absolutely just ruined it. Just cut. Yeah. So they're in trouble for that. They're in trouble for a few things. There's about 8 investigations going on into GB News. So it'll be interesting to see if they survive.
Yeah. Well, if you can get rid of them, please tell us how you do it, because Fox News, we would love to be rid of them, especially in all of our, you know, grandparents' doctors' waiting rooms. Would be great to get that off of there. Now you mentioned Rishi Sunak having a forum where people could ask him questions. And of course, earlier today, he had the Prime Minister's questions.
Yeah.
And it seemed like a lot of those questions were election, question mark. That was kind of the whole of it. But did you see anything else about the Prime Minister's questions that was interesting to you?
I mean, that is a good point. Obviously, a lot of the questions were, so July the 4th, does that date have any relevance? Are you calling a general election? And even then, he couldn't help himself. Even then, he had to turn around and go and say, it is still my intention to, I'm being so coy. I'm being so shy. That whole democracy thing, it's a mystery. No, it isn't. It really isn't. He was saying, it's still my working assumption that there will be a general election in the second half of this year. But as been pointed out by just about everybody, that starts in July. The second half of the year starts in July. So saying that, bearing in mind that needs to be 25, 26 working days between the two, you know, between dissolving Parliament and actually calling it, we're virtually there anyway. You know what I mean? We're not missing anything. And of course, it's going to be in the second half of the year. But when? Well, we now know. No more awkward questions. Yeah.
Well, I would like to congratulate you on being very good at manifesting. I know you've been working on this for a long time, and you have finally, you know, achieved oneness with the universe, and it is now working for you. So now I think you should turn your attention to picturing perhaps some sort of yacht. That might be nice for you. So just like a really big boat, just hold that in your brain and see what happens, okay? Because you're on a roll. Don't let the streak end.
All right, and for everybody else out there, dreams can come true. Believe.
That's right, and sometimes they come true for only about 40 or so days, and then they dissolve rather abruptly. But then you get to go on a book tour, so that's good. So Rishi Sunak, next thing to do after what we assume will be a crushing defeat, probably writing a book. And Rishi, just a piece of advice from the other side of the Atlantic, whatever you do in that book, If you've ever murdered a dog, leave it out. That's just a little thing that we learned over here recently. I just want to pass that along to you. Piece of advice.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I wonder how many years there'll be to save the West. Bearing in mind, with Liz's trustee, it was 10 years. 10 years, wasn't it? So now it's just like 3 years or 7 years or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Rishi's like, I can do it in 5.5. I'm a billionaire after all.
We do have other news, by the way, everybody, just in case you wondered if
Yes.
this whole thing's going to be about the election. We're going to hit more about the election next week, obviously.
Yes.
I'm happy to, I think I'll have a leave this week to a bit of celebrating, and then maybe next week I'll have a look at possible outcomes, shall we say.
And I would imagine next week you're probably going to start getting some more political ads. So maybe we can see if the tenor of those changes at all now that there is a great sense of urgency sort of accompanying things.
Yes. Funny enough, and obviously Labour, as I say, Rishi Sunak did this to catch out Labour, but they haven't been caught out. And on my Twitter feed, there's a Labour ad. Pretty well straight. It must have been just at the point when Rishi Sunak said 4th of July. It's like, boom. You know what I mean? Everything, everything send.
Yes.
Yeah, as I say, this has been badly thought out, which is hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Even to the point of standing in the rain. That's just brilliant. And it's clear that he's getting wetter and wetter, you know? It's not like a couple of drops and things like that. This is deluge.
I can't imagine why they didn't have somebody holding an umbrella over him or something. Like, there are indoor facilities where this could have been done. I don't know.
He obviously looked at it and thought, I don't want to look like a pussy, as you Americans would say. I want to kind of straight out there and kind of go. I was waiting for the point where, unfortunately, I think his hair's really thick and lacquered. Otherwise, I was waiting for the point it would start dripping down on his nose like that.
I was waiting for that too. I thought like that little bit in the front was going to start to sag a little bit. I saw it kind of flopping back and forth as the raindrops were hitting. So unnecessary. He didn't have to do it that way, but
the other thing I was waiting for was his notes, because obviously he wouldn't have time to laminate his notes.
yeah.
So I was waiting for his notes to get all kind of, and he was go, well, anyway, they don't have a plan. General election. All right, bye. You know, I was just waiting for that moment. Never came now, unfortunately.
Unfortunately. Well, Matt, as you mentioned, we do have some other bits of news going on in the world. So I know you are probably curious about what's going on with the Trump trial.
Yes, please.
Not much at the moment. So earlier this week, there was a witness for the defense that got very snippy with the judge to the point where the judge had to clear the courtroom to tell him to knock it off. And the judge was like, "Are you staring me down?" You know,
wow.
just absolutely ridiculous. So that did not make the defense look great. So anyway. The defense rested their case after, I think he was like witness number 1 or 2. There was only like 1 or 2 witnesses. And then they said, all right, we're done. They did not call Donald Trump to the stand because they knew that he would commit perjury pretty much immediately and several times thereafter. So they were like, let's just not make this worse. So they, told him to stand down. So yes, the trial is done. So it looks like the case is going to go to the jury sometime next week. So we could have a verdict as soon as next week. So we may have a lot of things to talk about there on next week's show. But in the meantime, we're just kind of playing a waiting game.
All right. Well, you tease you, Andrea. I was gonna get my nails done next Wednesday, but I guess that can wait.
Yes, I think it's going to have to. But there's other things happening over here that are a little bit more exciting. Not so much with Trump, but with his longtime lawyer and a man who is not in any way aging gracefully, Rudy Giuliani. So America's mayor has had a lot of legal kerfuffles, much like his good friend Don Don. So Arizona had been looking for him so that they could serve him with a subpoena, but they were having trouble finding him. But they were finally able to get the job done this weekend at his 80th birthday party. And no, they didn't jump out of the cake, because if they had, I would never stop watching that video. We would not be having this podcast. We would just be looping that video 24 hours a day.
And again, is it wrong of me to sort of sit there and think that if they would did that, he'd be like,
Yeah. Yes, he would have. We all know the expression he would have on his face. You're picturing it right now.
yes, that horrified look. By the way, I love the way that I love hearing about how these subpoenas are delivered. I've seen so many of these films where that sort of happens. Somebody comes along, hi, have a nice day. They look like they're going to hand some mail or something like that. You go, you've been delivered. Is that what they say? You've been delivered or something like that?
You've been served.
You've been served. That's it.
Yes.
We, as far as I know, don't have that sort of thing in the UK. Which means I get surprised at the same time as the actor in the film. Happy birthday, Rudy, says a giant birthday bunny. Although if it's Rudy, it's got to be a rat. All right, let's be honest.
Yes, true. So as I mentioned, he's having a lot of different legal troubles. And one is that he has filed for bankruptcy because he is $148 million in debt, which seems like a pretty large amount. That's largely because he had a verdict against him, a defamation verdict against him from some caseworkers or some election workers in Georgia. So he declared bankruptcy to try and get out of paying them. Weirdly, he is still managing to spend about $43,000 every month, which is way more than most people.
Yep.
And now his bankruptcy lawyer is saying that he has not been paid and is withdrawing as Rudy's counsel. And I have to wonder, not paying your lawyers, I wonder where he learned that trick. It's a mystery.
He's still Trump's lawyer, though, right?
That's a good question. I don't think he technically is anymore.
Right.
Because I think he's been disbarred in a couple of different states where Trump is doing business. So I don't think he's his lawyer anymore, but he was for a very long time.
Yeah. I was saying, because I was just thinking otherwise they could set up some sort of chain payment, or I guess non-payment. He doesn't pay me, I don't pay you. A sort of, you love this, a quid no go.
There you go. That's the sanest payment method I've heard all day. So in this court hearing about this Arizona case, he attended it over Zoom, and he apparently forgot to turn off his microphone while he was peeing. That's on brand. That checks out. It sounds like something he would do.
At least to be fair, it's only peeing. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
that could have gone a lot worse.
Could have. So in order to raise cash for all of this legal stuff he's got going on, you'll be relieved to know that Giuliani has launched a new brand. And Matt, just go ahead and take a guess at what he is selling. I promise you in a million years you will not be able to guess, but go ahead and give it a try.
Hair dye or sex toys or gold sneakers.
All good guesses, but no, it is coffee. Rudy Giuliani is selling coffee. And to be fair, when I think of Rudy Giuliani, I do think of brown dripping liquid, so you can make a case for it. The coffee is said to be very effective at waking you up, not because of the coffee itself, but because his face is on the bag. So when you go and get it out of the pantry every morning, you're like, God, I forgot how terrible that guy looks now, just really jolts you awake.
Yes. And it only looks better when you start to fold it over.
Right, exactly.
I mean, maybe that's the idea, right? I mean, you put his face on something, it's going to make you want to pour hot scalding water on it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm sure it's going to be a very successful business venture that is going to solve all of his problems. So good luck out there, Rudy, with all the capitalism. Now, Matt, before today, before the very exciting events of today, I saw that Rishi Sunak was over there leading the charge on an AI summit in conjunction with South Korea. And I'm a little bit curious, what's the general attitude towards AI over there? Are people excited or scared or a little bit of both?
Okay, I have to be honest, I don't think people over here really give a crap. And you can kind of see why. I mean, do you remember about 15 years ago, it was all about virtual reality? You remember that? Now
Right.
you don't really hear anything about it.
Yeah.
And then 30 years ago, it was the internet, right? I mean, whatever happened with that? Waste of time. Anyway, Rishi Sunak, Rishi Sunak is clearly in love with all that stuff. He described himself as a tech bro, with all that salivating interview he did with Elon Musk as well. So, I mean, if he attached the same drive he has with AI as he does with his day job, I think we'd all be a little bit happier.
Well, maybe he can apply that same zeal to campaigning over the next several weeks. That's
I've no
that's
doubt he will.
he'll have his hands full. Over here, with regard to AI, it's kind of a mad dash to get it into as many things as possible, as quickly as possible, as capitalistically as possible, and damn the consequences, which is always a good approach that never backfires. Should be great. I, for one, think that our future AI overlords seem very nice, and I want to be on record as saying that now.
Oh, absolutely. And if they make me Baron of one of their fiefdoms, I will happily round up the troublemakers.
Exactly. So, Matt, anything else going on besides the big news of the election? What else are you guys up to over there?
Well, up to a couple of hours ago, the big news over here was, in all honesty, a little less upbeat. In fact, positively horrifying. It's to do with the infected blood inquiry, which looked into the cases of some 30,000 patients who were infected with contaminated blood and given HIV and hepatitis between the 1970s and 1990s. Some 3,000 people have died, and people are still dying at approximately a rate of 1 every 4 days. Anyway, there was a huge cover-up by the senior figures in the NHS and in some of the civil service and the government as well, which has prompted apologies from all the major parties. It has been described as a national day of shame by Rishi Sunak, and let's be honest, he should know. He's seen his fair share, right? But he has earmarked, believed to be £10 billion compensation to the victims. You'll forgive me if I'm taking what Baron von Smugface says with a pinch of salt, but I do think, in all honesty, that this £10 billion is genuine because he knows he won't have to pay it. Essentially, he's writing a check that the Labour are going to have to cash.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. That might be another reason for him to have called this election and, turn around and walk away from the podium as quickly as possible.
Yes. During which time he'll be, this time, by the end of the year, he'll be in the US fighting hard against any sort of extradition.
Yeah, that's probably correct.
So, Andrew, if you remember a couple of weeks ago, we spoke about the Thames and swimming in E. coli and effluents and things like that.
Right.
Well, the good news is the water companies have agreed to put things into place to ensure that our riverways, easy for me to say, are pure and clean again. And all they are asking is for us, the consumer, to foot the bill. They're asking for price rises in water bills of between, get this, 29 and 91%.
What?
Yeah. And we are, of course, Andrew, on this side of the Atlantic, known for our, how can I put it? Well, we don't blow things up out of proportion, do we? I mean, Mike Kyle, who is the chief executive of the CCW, the Consumer Council for Water, which is an organization that represents consumers, and spoke about bill rises and said that it's going to come as a massive surprise to people. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. And just to be clear, if we don't want shit in our riverways, we're going to have to pay, ironically, shitloads.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense that you guys would have to pay for it because you guys were the ones that voted for the idea of putting shit in the river, right? Was that not you? Did you guys not?
Yeah, I know. We were just like, do you want shit in your river? I was like, yes, always, yes. And now we've got it. I'm not so sure it was such a great move. No.
Yeah.
I'd go no if they brought it up again. I won't lie. Always learn from your mistakes.
Well, that is some huge personal growth there from you, Matt. Great job. I really can't think of a better way to end this podcast than on a river of shit. If you'd like the opposite of that, maybe something that smells nice and won't give your intestines a beat down, you can always subscribe to Matt's channel at The Interesting Times UK, and I will be back here on Friday with the latest on US news, so hit subscribe. It won't give you a tummy ache. We will be back here next week. It sounds like we're going to have a lot to discuss, but in the meantime, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.